Women in Afghanistan have made some progress in the past decade. The first female provincial governor in Afghan history is currently in office. Several key ministries are led by women, and more than 27% of the Afghan parliament is female. But as our correspondent Courtney Body found out, behind this seemingly optimistic picture, oppression is never really far away.
The women and girls in this Kabul shelter can't show their faces because it would be too risky. They stand accused of moral crimes, which in some parts of Afghan society can be punishable by summary execution, a so-called honor killing by their own families. Moral crimes include running away from forced and underage marriages, domestic violence, even rape. While running away doesn't violate the country's criminal code, the Supreme Court has instructed Afghan judges to treat it like a crime if the runaways are women or girls. Women also have been convicted of zina, or unlawful sex, after rape and forced prostitution. Victims are criminals. It's the latter under Islamic law. Women and girls convicted of zina face up to 15 years in prison or worse. The lucky ones come here. Some of the less fortunate say even prison is preferable to the stabbings, burning, rape, and the honor killings. For many, there is nowhere else to go.
I went to the district police, and they don't care about us. They told me a woman should never leave her house and to go back home.
By executive decree, President Hamid Karzai endorsed legislation in 2009 called the Elimination of Violence Against Women Law, or EVAL. Without Parliament's formal approval, EVAL could be overturned by Karzai's successor, as Afghans go to polls next year to elect a new president. Against the advice of many women's rights advocates, the head of the Parliamentary Commission for Women, Fawzia Kufi, called for a floor debate on EVAL. It got a hostile reception. The level of resistance surprised Kufi, who concedes that EVAL is now in danger of being repealed.
Some of our male colleagues, the conservative ones, they're preparing themselves for a new situation post-2014. They're already trying to build up their networks with those conservative elements outside parliament, perhaps among Taliban. They're trying to demonstrate that they are more eligible to run this country post-2014. And that's worrisome. That's something that gave us more concern.
The women in the shelter are learning to read, some for the first time in their lives. Others take computer courses and learn sewing and craft making in an effort to become financially self-supporting. Most of the women in prisons and shelters here will never go home. They can't. In this conservative society, they are seen as dishonored, and returning to their families could be fatal. In a review of Afghan women now in prison, the Human Rights Watch advocacy group says 50% of the women and 95% of the girls were accused of the moral crime of running away from home, or of zina, unlawful sex. Foreign donors provide most of the funding for Afghanistan's Human Rights Commission, which is supposed to protect the rights of all Afghans, but women and children in particular. If Parliament repeals the law, Human Rights Watch says 12 years of work could be lost.
There are several categories in which underage marriage, for example, is a crime that could potentially be reversed. Beating your wife, domestic abuse is a crime which could potentially be reversed. Other kinds of forced marriages is a crime which potentially could be reversed. A lot of these categories of laws that actually make the lives of Afghan women slightly better stand to be reversed, unfortunately, if this law is opposed or rejected in the Afghan parliament.
Many women's rights activists fear President Karzai's government will trade away their hard-fought gains to persuade the Taliban to negotiate peace.
Women and children's rights in Afghanistan have always been target and have always been sacrifice of political deals. And this is something we witness in these peace talks. There is no woman in any delegation whatsoever by Taliban or the government of Afghanistan. International community, the same. They don't push for women. Everybody is in a hurry to bring peace, fabricated peace, which will not be a long-lasting peace.
Kufi says there can be no peace without justice for Afghan women, not just the men. Courtney Body, CCTV, Kabul.